Hello, my fellow people of the plant. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Cannabinoid Connect podcast, your favorite podcast that includes industry-facing conversations with the industry's leading experts that aim to educate and inform the public regarding the plant's endless benefits. My guest today is Renata Surles. She's the founder at PurpleRX. Hello, Renata. Nice to see you again.
Hi, how are you doing, Kevin?
Good. I'm doing great. I'm glad that we were able to finally make this happen. Apologies on my end for the conflicting schedules back and forth. But I got to tell you, my wife and I really enjoyed meeting and talking with you at the recent New Bloom Labs happy hour in Las Colinas. That was last month. It was a great event.
We had like a really long conversation. I had to stop it because I was like, oh, maybe I need to talk to other people because our conversation was going on forever. Plus, I needed to eat at that point.
I know, right? No, it was. And I was even thinking, I may have even said this to you, like, we got to like save some of this for when we record and get you on the podcast. Cause, you know, talking with you, you had so many great insights. And I know that you mentioned your background was within the pharmaceutical industry before entering cannabis or hemp. Is that right?
Yes. So I actually went to Xavier University in New Orleans, and I was originally going to let me go be a doctor. Let me go be an MD. And then I was like, if I wanted to be a dermatologist, it's going to take me 10 years to minimum get out of school, really start my career and do what I need to do. And I was like, I was at a school that was mainly based at graduating students for pharmacy. So I was like, I looked into it. I was like, I still want to make my own drugs. That was the important part to me, was actually making my own drugs. And so I got into pharmacy and I loved it. I'm a nerd. I played cello in high school. I love chemistry and biology and really looking at the human body. So I'm weirded that way. And it just took me down a path that I love. And I became a pharmacist, got a doctorate in it, had my own experience in pharmacy school of being a patient in a different kind of way because I had to have a transplant. I was a genetic disease. So I had a kidney transplant like my first year into pharmacy school. After I graduated undergrad, I went to pharmacy. So my first year in, I'm over here having a kidney transplant. So I'm having to be like a different kind of patient. And that kind of gave me a different insight when having a doctorate in this and talking to people and understanding what are they going through? What are they dealing with? And how can I approach them to see whether it's alternative medicine, whether it's Western medicine, what they need and how I can help them.
Wow. I mean, that is like the perfect purview, right? To have the doctor side, the clinician experience and kind of being on the front lines there, but then to also be the patient and then see it from that perspective. I mean, that's the best of both worlds within that profession, I would imagine.
It is. And I'm going to say I'm not a tough patient as in I am a tough patient. I was kind of I was a baby. I'm a goer. So like my doctor had to fight with me a little, but I had the most compassionate doctor, the most understanding doctor. He understood where I was coming from. He understood my financial situation as a student. He understood that school was important to me and I was trying to get through school, and he was going to find every way to accommodate me and find opportunities for me to be my best and still deal with what I was dealing with. And he taught me kind of in a way how to be a doctor, how to help patients, how to really get in touch with people. And I really appreciated that because I was like, I cried a couple of times. I was so emotional. I cried. I was like, I got schoolwork, knowing I just didn't want to deal with it. Schoolwork was my excuse. I just didn't want to go through the surgeries or the having to be in a hospital out of school for a week one time when something happened. So I was just fighting it.
It can be scary, right? I mean, like you're vulnerable at that point. And I would imagine, to your point, it's super comforting to have a doctor that truly cares and is compassionate and forthright about what they're proposing needs to happen. Like all that communication is very important for someone in that position.
It is. And the thing is, I even trusted him enough afterwards because he was a doctor he was a nephrologist. So mainly he dealt with patients and sent them to people who were transplant surgeons. And then after that, the transplant hospice followed him up. But I had a transplant here in Dallas because my mom felt safer My cousin was actually a transplant surgeon, so he knew the hospital and how it worked. And I was, I lived in New Orleans still. I had to go back to school in New Orleans.
Right.
And he followed me up, and he had never followed anybody up. And we had some like rough times, but he was still very good, and he was still understanding, and he was still honest and had integrity and said, you know what? I'm not the best at this. Let me find some other information. Let me find somebody else. And not every doctor will do that. Some doctors are like, I know everything. Even, I'm like, y'all need to calm down. There's some things that you don't know. There's some
Sure.
things everybody doesn't know.
Yeah, I would be really weary for anybody in any profession to say that they know everything, because
Yeah.
who does? Like, I don't know if that is even possible, right? Everything's changing and
No.
evolving every day. Especially when, you hear that within the cannabis or hemp industry, people are, touting that they're experts, and which is fine, but we still have so much learning to do, when it comes to this plant. But before we get
Yes.
in, before we get into that, Renata, so tell me, so you went through this treatment, you went through the surgery for the transfusion. Was that early on in your career? Because I know that you were a pharmacist or in the pharmaceutical industry for 9 years. Is that right?
So before, it was during pharmacy school. So it was during my schooling
Oh,
time.
okay.
So
Got
my
you.
first year of pharmacy school, I had noticed, I was back into running around campus, and I had noticed I had shin splints. I was like, I ran track. Where am I getting shin splints from? I'm just walking around campus. My heart rate was up, and I went to the because I didn't really have insurance. So I went to the school, not insurance, but the school clinic, and they basically took my blood pressure, and they were like, oh, your blood pressure's 150 over like 95. It was ridiculously high. Now,
Whoa.
then they took my urine and found out, okay, it looks like you have your kidney may be having an issue right now, because there's blood in your urine, there's protein in your urine, all signs of kidney disease. And it could be acute or it could be a long term. And so then they were trying to tell me I needed to go to a cardiologist. And I have an aunt that's a cardiologist. I was like, no, 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 no. I need to go to a nephrologist. I don't need to go to a cardiologist. And they were like, no, your kidney's probably bad because your blood pressure was up and you got a blood pressure problem. I was like, no, no, no. I know you see those patients all day, but I have never had a blood pressure issue. And they were like, well, it went up like a few degrees every year. I was like, exactly. So it just now started going up
Right.
every year.
It wasn't an ongoing thing. Yeah. It wasn't like,
it was like it had just clicked on like maybe a few years. It had just started going on, and then going up, and it elevated like from 120 to 130 to 140 to 1. So it was like over a 5-year span it had done this.
So for people that aren't in the medical profession, why did you know that it was clearly not the cardiologist, but who was the other doctor?
Nephrologist. It was like straight
Yeah.
because of the protein in my urine and all that. And my family had heart cholesterol issues, but in mine, I had never seen it. I had never had anything pop or ever have an issue. My blood pressure really didn't start going crazy until like 5 or 6 years. I had worked out as I was young. I had done so many things, and there had never been anybody saying your blood pressure might be an issue, or I'm seeing slight spikes in your blood pressure, or I'm seeing, if it was hereditary.
That's what I'm saying. It's usually hereditary, right? Blood pressure, high cholesterol.
Well, no, blood pressure can be from diet. So a lot of times in the Black community, it's hit us because a lot of the things that we have access to and foods we have access to, those things are not the best for us. So they're raising blood pressure. And so the thing about it is, if you had there was nobody in my family that hereditarily had high blood pressure.
Mm-hmm.
They may have had cholesterol issues or anything else, but there was no hereditary. And then it was slowly raising, which means something was raising it. And because that your kidneys regulate your blood pressure and back and forth. So that was something I had known. And I was like, something's not right. And my gut was also telling me, no, 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 no. Your kidneys, something's going on with your kidneys. Because my back was, I was a waitress at that point. So my back was like, I was having little problems in my back. And I was like, why does it feel like my back where my kidneys are, something's like, it was almost like something drying up.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was just these small things that I found, the flank pain in my back, and they were just trying to tell me it was that. And I was like, if I go to a nephrologist will be able to tell me. Because at this point, my kidneys I was in stage renal disease. I was like stage 4. There's 5 stages, and I was stage 4.
Wow.
So there was something like, no matter what, even if it's a cardiologist, I need to go to a nephrologist first, because my kidneys are in danger, and more in danger than anything else. He can give me blood pressure pills.
Right, right.
And then we can see what the underlying was before. So he took a biopsy and found that I had something called FSGS, which was like a focal segmental glomerular sclerosis. So basically, the functioning unit that says, okay, your body needs this, keep it, go back in the system. Or it says, your body doesn't need this, let's filtrate it out. We don't need any more, we have too much of this in the body, so no, like keep go. That's what your glomerular system does.
Mm-hmm.
And so mine was just sclerosing. It was like basically dying off in a way. It was not developing, not, what is the word? I might as well say necrosing, because when I looked at the tissue and the doctor allowed me to look at my tissue, it was just dying off.
Wow.
So it was just basically reversing backwards in a way. It was just deteriorating on itself.
That is crazy. So, and that was what the nephrologist had determined that after you had went to that particular doctor, or?
Yeah. So my aunt and them, they are cardiologists, and they knew one in New Orleans. And I went to, it was like everything was almost like God planned. So I went to the emergency room because that doctor who used to live in New Orleans, but the hurricane hit, he still had his nurse who was a nurse practitioner that he cared for, loved. She was a great nurse. And so he's like, go to Tulane Hospital. She's going to be at Tulane. It was one of those. And so I went there and she looked at me, and some people looked at me and they were like, and I thought it was maybe I had an infection because I had a sinus infection. It took me too long to get taken care of. Because if you do that, it can go and inflame other organs. And so I did just that, went to see her. They checked me all out and they sent me home. They were like, well, there's nothing we can do. If it's an infection, it'll go away. And she was like, you know what? There needs to be follow-up on this. And the thing is, they put me in a back room and it was a bunch of other doctors. And I didn't know it at the point, but it was like, nobody wants to follow me up. It was kind of a little discrimination, like, you're fine, you're good, just go home. And so she was like, no, I'm going to work with a doctor like in a week. So I started a week working for him. He's a nephrologist. I'm going to talk to him about you. We're going to look at this and we're going to get you in an appointment. And he saw me, and he was such a, like I said, he was such a great doctor. And he was like, after a few weeks, he was like, I don't see this. If it was an infection and it had inflamed your kidneys, you would be declining even more. And he showed me the chart. He was like, I see your, not my glomerular filtration weight, what was it? I can't even think of. My creatinine was, he said, I saw it went up and now it's going down. It was at like, it went up to like 11, and your creatinine should be like 1.2.
Wow.
It was up at 11. And he was like, I see it's going down, and it went down to 8. He's like, but it's plateaued right here. It hasn't decreased anymore. So I don't really think it was an infection. I think you have something else. And that's when he got me a biopsy.
Thank God for that lady to like really stick with you. And
exactly.
Yeah.
If he was like, you could be dead right now and not know why.
Wow. So at that point was when they did the biopsy and they determined that surgery was necessary?
Well, he was like, there's no other thing we can do for you because it's stage 4. He was like, we can't prevent disease from going because this is a disease that's going to happen. Like, I had an infection or something when I was 18 and it just clicked it on, or something like that could happen. It was something genetically that turned that on in my system. And when it turns it on, I can't reverse it. And so my kidneys were just doing their thing of breaking down in that area. And so all I had the option to do was dialysis till I find a transplant. And thank God I didn't have to go on dialysis, because that can be really, it could be a lot on a person's body. Because think about this, they're taking the blood out of your body, running it through a machine to cleanse it because your kidneys can no longer cleanse it, and then putting it back in.
Wow. How frequent is that?
And some people, it depends on how bad. Some people do it 3 times a week. Some people do it 4 days a week. Some people do it a good amount.
Wow.
And it can be a lot. It can be a lot on your body. It's so taxing on it to take blood out and put it back in. It's very taxing on your body to do anything with that. So that's why a lot of people get weakened in that state. And it's hard when they haven't gotten a transplant, and it takes a while.
Wow.
So
that's wild. Okay. So, like during that process, like when did you decide? I don't want to get ahead of it because I don't know if you're like,
that's fine.
So you go through that treatment, you do the transfusion, or you do the, transplant, transplant. Yeah. And then after that, like, what's your headspace like? I mean, what kind of medications are they putting you on? How are you feeling at that point?
Honestly, so my aunt actually gave me a kidney. So I had a live donor. My aunt who doesn't let me borrow any purses or any of her clothes. She's like, you can have my kidney. And I'm like, what? So I get her kidney and
Wow.
we do the transplant that day. And I feel great because, well, how I was feeling was my skin had turned darker. It was like dead skin. I had dead skin because there wasn't enough nutrients getting through to my system. And the nutrients were, it needed to be excreted out because there was so much toxic things still just running around in my body. I was very tired. It almost feels like nothing to older people, but as you age, it seems like people seem like they look like they deteriorate.
Mm-hmm.
How they look is kind of how I felt. My body felt like it was deteriorating. I was tired. I had insomnia and I smoked weed. It helped me, even though I probably shouldn't because I was in pharmacy school. But I did nights where I really couldn't sleep and I needed to sleep. I smoked a little weed. I had to.
I bet that was a better alternative than like maybe some of the pain medication that they put you on, or maybe even the sleeping medication. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, well, they didn't give me any sleeping medication. I just told my doctor, I was like, yeah, I'm smoking a little weed here and there. And he's like, okay. He was cool with it because he knew like it wasn't like I was being of excess because I was still going to school. And they may get me about, I had a drug test or whatever. And they gave me a random drug test. I still passed it, but yeah. Every once in a while, I kind of had to take it because I couldn't sleep. I didn't have an appetite to eat anything. Like my appetite was gone. I had gone down to like, I'm 5'9". I went down to like 125 pounds. So I was like skin and bones and like my muscles were weak. So it was something that I needed to like help relax my body because I was in such a high intense state and I could never go to sleep. And it was a whole lot better. It just helped me get through even the smallest parts. And I had such good friends who were like weed connoisseurs. So they usually only got me what the best was. They usually got me whatever started in Cali or wherever.
Right.
It wasn't any BS I was getting. So that was a part of like my journey. Like this has really helped me get through. It helped me laugh in times that I was just wanting to cry because I was kind of out there by myself.
Sure.
It was me. I had like my aunt's ex-in-laws, but I was going to school, but I had a pretty good friend support system that really kind of had my back. And so I just went out there and I was doing a little weed and still getting through what I had to get through. But after that, after I had the surgery, I was probably taking like 20 to 30 pills a day.
And what were those pills? Like just all in between? Or I mean, what?
So when you start, you have to take a lot of pills. Now I'm down to like 3 different medicines. That's about it. But when you start first, before you even take the surgery, they pump you full like steroids. So your immune system isn't trying to attack anything or do anything right after they put the kidney in. So they pump you. I had like 120 milligrams of steroids. After that, I had to take one called tacrolimus or Prograf. And from that medication, I had to take probably like 8 or 9 pills just from that one alone. Then I had to take like a Bactrim DS, which is Bactrim is an antibiotic because I'm almost like an HIV. The meds I take make me like an HIV patient where I am having to suppress my immune system in order for my kidney to do what it has to do to help me stay alive.
Right. And
then there was a whole lot of other meds that they wanted to take that I gave me. I can't even think off the top of my head. So I take prednisone, tacrolimus, mycophenolate. Those are all my immunocompromising meds. Then I took antibiotics. I also took, darn it, what was the other? There was 2 other pills I had to take that I haven't had to take before. They were like nutrient kind of pills, more so vitamins and metabolic things just to help me as I transition. So I was taking a lot of pills a day.
And that was just temporary, right? In your recovery process, or is this kind of something that you're going to have to do permanently?
Permanently, I have to take meds, but for that time, I've reduced the amount of meds. I really only have to do 3. Gotcha. I had to take those 20 or 30 for a good, I would say probably almost the first year or so. I'm on 20 or 30 meds, just going through it. And those things, how about I say, all the things in medicine is great. It has helped a lot of people and it has done a lot of things that we were never able to do and protect us in so many ways. But it can also do a lot to wear down your body. Even the immunocompromising meds that I take, it can do it. They have to watch out because it could cause cancer. It could cause something else. It could cause other infections or overgrowths in my body. It could make me easily susceptible to those things. And they've seen that. And also taking so many meds can clog up your liver from trying to break those down, because it's spending all its time breaking down meds that if you eat something just slightly rough, that can be rough on the kidney, like eating red meat could hinder up your liver and cause something else, because your liver is an important part of your body. So I've had to counteract some things and had to slow down on some things, as in like what I eat anymore and what I encounter in, or things I take. That's why I got into what I got into. It was kind of like I was led into there. I was into kind of like the eating right and making sure you have a good sustainable diet. Because like I said, I had an aunt that was a cardiologist, and nutrition was just something I liked and appreciated. And I liked how it fed the body. Mm-hmm. So that was something I had to really start. I really started incorporating more, and it got me to this place of, because I had weed and it wasn't bad. It wasn't something that was like, I can't do what I need to do on marijuana. Now, if you take something that's very intense for you, you can get to that point. Anybody can get to that point. That's like drinking. If I have one drink, it may not harm me as much as 10 drinks down the line.
Right. It's any external substance. I mean, we've said that on the podcast before. I mean, anything, sugar, right? If you overdo sugar, it can be harmful to your health. If you overdose on water, right? I think that there's studies and evidence that says that you could drown internally by drinking too much water, right?
You can.
Yeah. So, and that's actually a perfect segue, because that's what I was wondering, kind of when you had that epiphany. And it sounds like from your own personal experience, going through all that, like, and taking all the medication, and then comparing it to your experience with cannabis. Not to say that cannabis is the end all and it solves everything, but to treat, like you said, with your appetite and with your sleep and just with your overall happiness. That's kind of like when the light bulb went on and you thought, maybe there's something more to this holistic side of medicine.
And I kind of knew, but like I had people saying, oh, holistic, it's not that anything. And it just over time, as I looked deeper, and then I kind of experimented on myself, because I had fibroids and I was like, I am not taking any more meds. I can't do that. So I naturally got rid of it with herbs and with other things, is the way I naturally just released the fibroids that I already had and didn't have to worry, and balanced my hormones back and learned my body. The most important thing is medicine is to learn your body.
Right.
Everybody's body is different. Everybody's body reacts differently. And it's important for you to know that, to know, is this medicine going to work for me? Or maybe this side will work for me. Like I told you before, my fiance, he's Native American. And if he takes like an antibiotic, like Levaquin, 250 would affect his body very differently than it would affect mine. You will see side effects on him and he'll be like, I don't like that. It's making me dizzy. It's making me loopy. I can feel it in my head. My muscles are kind of hurting. And that is a major side effect of, why did I say quotes, but a major side effect of Levaquin. And people are not seeing and understanding that a lot of times we can do things with herbal medicine. We can do, instead of, and I worked, like I said, in hospice, long-term care, and all I saw was like older people on 30 and 40 pills. And they're having one pill to counteract the side effect of another pill. And then they're getting tremors from all these pills and they want to give them something else. And I remember I had a doctor that was on a rotation when we were following one time. He was like, as people get older, they don't need all these meds. A lot of these meds start making them loopy. A lot of these meds start making them shaky. And then they fall and they break their hips. So we're making their quality of life even worse. And as you get older in age, it's more about quality rather than quantity. So it's all about how are you living rather than how many years you have. Because if you're 100 sitting in a wheelchair, not doing anything, just popping pills, what kind of life is that?
What kind of life is that? Exactly. Yeah, no, I'm totally with you on that. And, I'm arrogant. I'll be first to admit, when it comes to like, the true efficacy of certain medications and why they're prescribed and what their purpose is. But, from the offset, one thing that I just get so fascinated about, especially when I see those, medication commercials where you've got the beautiful ridiculous family, right, walking in the park, and it's like, side effects may include, and they like throw out this list like that takes a full minute, right, of like all the side effects of this. But one thing that's always fascinated me is that they say within those commercials that you may need to take another medication for that medication based off the side effects. So to me, I'm like, okay, well, that's a rabbit hole that you're about to go down, right? I
Exactly.
mean, yeah,
And exactly. And the thing, like I said, and the thing is, I think there should be a good combination of Western medicine and alternative herbal medicine. I think it should come from both sides because there are some instances, maybe like mine, you may have to have a med to save your life. But that does not have to be your only avenue of staying healthy, of finding ways to heal yourself. That doesn't have to. Like I said, marijuana is a full blossom plant that can do that. Marijuana, the hemp part of it, not the non-psychoactive, the raw part, has really helped me heal my hemp, helped me heal my fibroids that I had. So I was like, oh yeah, it just tells me even more like, yes, if a raw plant like that, even smoking, everybody doesn't get the same reaction, don't get
right.
me wrong, but some people it's very beneficial. And I can't knock anybody for that. And I don't like to knock people for saying, if something works for somebody, why would I knock that? Unless it's harming somebody else.
Exactly. Right. And because cannabis has been federally legal, it's listed in this, Schedule 1 narcotics, which is totally crazy to me, because it doesn't even fit that criteria for Schedule 1. But aside from all that, it's like there's this dismissal, it seems like, within the healthcare system of cannabinoid therapeutics, the efficacy of cannabinoids, CBD, like you said, CBN, the different minor cannabinoids outside of THC. And
Mhm.
is that the feeling that you got while in that profession for 9 years? Like, what were those conversations like, if they even
Um,
happened?
I got it from some people, but it was so much more. I got it that way from probably from an older crowd, like older doctors, and some people who were very political. Because no matter what, we are a government. We as pharmacists are government in a way, government based. You have our fingerprints. You know what we do. You come and look for us. The DA can come and look for us. Everybody can come and look for us. So I think people are scared of going outside that box that the government says this is right and that is right. And the thing is, how are you going to tell me what's right? A person who banned that and made that illegal was not a doctor. He did not do studies on it. His assessment on it was based off of political capital gain
Hmm.
and racial gain. Like he just used all he could to get what he. So like you have to start using logical sense. If you really are in this profession, and what you also have to remember, some people are in, just like any other profession, are in this profession for money. Oh, I
Hmm.
get a great salary. I can do the job. It can be easy. But some people aren't like me, where I'm like, ooh, let's study this part of the body to make sure, is that how it goes? How deep does it go? Okay, how does it react? I'm that weird person that looks like, that wants to know the details of how does it react, interact, where does it go, how does it go? Let me tell this person how it does and tell them what can benefit them, what can't.
Well, you're a true professional, and that's like seems how it should be. I mean, in most cases, not even outside of healthcare, you can look at any industry, right? There can come a point where I'm using this as a new term, like human fatigue, right? You've been in an industry
Mhm.
for 30, 40 years. Like at some point, you're going to slow down. You're not probably going to, I'm not saying everyone, but you get lazy, right? Or you just don't kind of follow some best practices that you would. And it's so important in healthcare. I mean, I can tell you firsthand, my mom is a caretaker of her mom and her dad. And,
Mhm.
in New Mexico, like that's one thing where she just mentions all the time that she has to do her due diligence when going to the doctor, because if not, she'll take my grandpa in and it's just like, oh, that's the problem. Well, here, check the box. This is the bucket you go in based off of, or here's what we recommend based off what you're saying. And she's gone several,
Exactly.
yeah, and she's gone several times where she's had to be like, look, you guys said that 2 times before, and we can't do that approach again because I have it in my notes right here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's almost like you really have to take your own action to make sure that you're getting the proper treatment that you or your loved one needs.
Exactly. And that's what I like really want to have been talking about on the channel that I have, because I wanted to like people to be empowered and know your own body. Stand in the fact that if this isn't working for you, say that. And if your doctor doesn't get it, they need to get out the door. And you have the power in your own healthcare. You have the power to know your own body and say, this isn't working for me, or I'm getting more side effects than I am getting, this, that, and this. Well, your blood pressure is down. Yeah, but I'm also having tremors and I can't do what I need to do.
Right.
And so the thing is, they love to say, well, the benefits are outweighing the risk. You see that as benefits outweighing the risk, but I see it as a higher risk for me because I could not have a job, something like that. They're seeing the moment, not the long haul.
Right.
And that's not everybody, but that is a lot of people. And the thing is, they've made it so robotic where like, here it is, do this. This is how it goes. This is the only way, or like an exact equation. And the body is not math. It's not if you do this plus this, it's going to happen this way. And they seem to have gone in that direction rather than, there are some people that are out there looking to help people and get people what they need based off their own body. That's why you see some of these tests out there about what's your metabolism like? How do you metabolize drugs? Epigenetic test. Where did you come from, and what area or environment, how is your environment affecting how you take in meds, or affecting how should I dose you? And those are things that it's going there, but they're not talking about that. And that's where it should go. Even in this whole vaccine situation, I'm not going to down anybody that doesn't want to do it. Because some people, I had the virus. I'm going to say I'm a solid transplant patient and I had the virus and I recovered. I didn't have to go to the hospital. I recovered at home. But why is my natural immunity different than something outside of me? That sounds weird, partly to me, but also like if somebody wants to feel safe going to get a vaccine, that's okay. But if I don't feel safe because I know my body may be more sensitive than that person because over time I've taken all these meds and my body is more sensitive in reaction to other things, yeah, I'm gonna step back and I'm gonna take my time.
Right. No, I totally get it. And I can't like you bring up such a great point. And I don't think that there's any other situation outside of healthcare that's more like that tells more about how a person's human genetic makeup is different, right? Like it's super important within healthcare. And the more that we can understand and just kind of be in agreement that not every medication should be prescribed or will work the same for everybody. And that includes cannabis and hemp, right? We know that.
Yes.
We know that people are more THC sensitive than others. And when it comes to the psychoactive properties, their heart palpitates and they freak out when they get high. And it's not a good experience, and it's just like any medication. And so you mentioned that your channel is PurpleRX. So is that the kind of the content and the education that you're focused on with your podcast?
Yeah, my content, I'm really focused on making sure you don't just, if you have an inkling, our gut is basically, I believe our gut is God. It's God within us telling us, this is probably not the best for you, or this is the direction to go. This is not the person to deal with. It tells you, it helps you in your direction if you pay attention to it. And a lot of times the things are, I want people to not feel like they can't say what they need to say, because I feel the healthcare industry has shut a lot of people up, and a lot of people have just gone with stuff because the doctor said, my nurse said, this said, they said. How is somebody else going to know what's best for you? You're the one reacting to it. That's your body reacting to it. You're the one experiencing it. How is somebody going to change your experience? That's kind of like gaslighting. Why do we want gaslighting in healthcare and people not really getting what they need, just becoming a bunch of cogs, taking a bunch of pills? And and that puts us in positions where, like, now here in our city, we have people having fungal infections. And I think a couple of people die? I can't remember, but a couple of people died, and they're resistant to antifungals because they want to give an antifungal out for this. Oh, you're getting a yeast infection because you took this antibiotic. Let me give you an antifungal because it's quicker, rather than maybe somebody actually doing something different and eating certain things to prevent that. So instead of doing that, eating certain foods like yogurt or anything that has lactobacillus in it, or taking a probiotic to allow that. We have to be careful. Or even if I have antacid or have acid reflux issues, me always taking an antacid like pantoprazole or something, that can mess up people's gut. We are not really paying attention to say, okay, if you're having this, what's the underlying issue? Do you have stress and maybe that's giving you acid reflux? Do you have this? Is that giving, is that going with you? And it's kind of like even in the pain industry, we are looking at when I was in hospice and long-term care and working with pain places, they were like, give them 30 milligrams of methadone, 20 milligrams of Oxycontin. And it's like, whoa, he's taking 5 or 10 pain meds. And I even had an uncle who was dying of cancer and they gave him pain meds, but the pain meds really weren't working in areas that he needed to work, like deeper in tissues where when you smoke cannabis, it can actually do better things like that. Like he had problems it had spread to his lymph and he was feeling everything. And it was feeling so, I can't describe the feeling because it's kind of like a tingly sensation all over his body in a way where everything was tired and achy. And like, he wasn't a big marijuana person. He was trying to take hydrocodones and he was overdosing on it because he thought that would help with the pain. Mm-hmm. And basically when we gave him a little some weed in his mouth, and I also got some CBD on his body, it felt good.
Was it like night and day for him? Was it like he completely
he was relaxed.
Wow.
It was night and day. And it was like he was dying, but he was like, oh my God, I feel so relieved. It made him feel relieved. It made him feel relaxed. And I would like to make people see that side and feel that side, especially if you're an older person on 30 or 40 meds or even experiencing that. I want you to experience that. Sometimes it may take a little longer to deal with your pain. Maybe your pain is dealing with something else that this might give it a chance to heal. Right. Because when you take opiates, there's a lot more other things that are going on in your body. Like it stops, especially like the oral ones. Now they're trying to give a medication for people that have constipation because they're taking so many. And it's like, really, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, that's so funny. I didn't know that last part that you said, but that was something that I've always experienced, if I've had an injury or if I've been prescribed opioids, is that I don't like taking them because the constipation, it just clogs you up. It makes you feel so lethargic and just, so what you're saying is that they're addressing that now by trying to
they addressed it like in the last 5 years. They pulled out a drug. I forgot the name of the drug, but I was like, do we really need that? Or maybe we should lower the dose, or maybe we should find an alternative.
Right.
And don't get me wrong, smoking a lot of marijuana can have effects on people's stomach as well. That's something that you can also address and you have to worry about, but it also depends on how much doses or how often they're taking it or what they're taking. And it could be, if you take it in a different form, you may not experience it as bad in that way. Maybe if you take it in a actual form, like a sublingual, it'll bypass that stomach or bypass what's going on in the stomach and contract the stomach. It's all relative to everybody else and things like that.
Exactly. And it goes back to what we were saying, right? Like on this podcast, we try to be as, objective and transparent as we can. And like we said, with any external substance, there can be adverse effects. And to your point, if you're a heavy user, there can be issues in the stomach. I know people personally that deal with cannabinoid hyperemesis syndrome. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's a thing. And one thing I'm curious about, Renata, is when you had that light bulb moment and you were really interested in learning more about the holistic side of medicine, more natural herbs and remedies, what was your experience on the education front? Like, was there a lot that you could pull from? Was it a lot of anecdotal evidence? Like, where did you get the research to now have your channel and communicate this knowledge to the public?
Well, some of the research was my own body. Some of the research was, right. It was online. There are some books, but also in the work that I've done and knowing kind of the compound and knowing the base of, like, I knew a lot of nutrition and knowing the base of what does your body need. And that being in pharmacy really kind of helped just segue that, because just about every med you take is extracted from a plant. Mm-hmm. It's either extracted, the plant is used, or it's mimicked in some way. So, think about when you're taking aspirin, that's willow bark. So they just extracted it from the willow bark tree. And back in the day, they probably just scraped some off the willow bark and put it in a tea or something. I can't remember how they did it, or made it into a powder, and they extract it, make it into a powder, and you've got your pill. Mm-hmm. It's just an easy formulation that people can digest, rather than taking a tea or taking something else. And so I started looking more and more into those things. And I got herbal books. I got a lot of herbal books to show, the history of herbals, where they're getting this, and like the base names of it. And so I've learned that, and I'm looking on taking an herbal class too as well. Couple more herbal classes. But marijuana, like we actually had to learn cocaine, marijuana, all those things in school. So in pharmacy school, we compound and make stuff. And one of my teachers was like, she was our compounding teacher, and she like talked a lot about cocaine. And she was like, so say cocaine. And she would talk about how your system uses cocaine and how it gets rid of it, and why cocaine is so rough on the body, because cocaine is also meds that we give people when we give people pain meds and other meds, and trying to put lidocaine and other things within their body. She's showing us how does the body react to it. So that lets you know what's your better formulation. Everything usually passes through the liver, except if you're doing something buccally within the cheek, you're most likely going to bypass that because it can go straight into this bloodstream if you're doing something like that. So tinctures are great.
Right.
Things like that, patches, because they bypass that system and go into it. But patches can be, it all depends on your body weight, your skin thickness. There could be a lot more going into it, things like that. Nasal, it can go straight to your lungs, all those things. So she taught us those things, and they learned. I also just read a lot of books and learn the basis of things, and learn, okay, so I have a cannabinoid system. Oh, that's easy. I know what that system's like. There's this other doctor. Let me see if I have the book around here. It's called Medical Cannabis. So there was this doctor in California. I went to his talk, and I actually got his book, and he's been doing it for years, even before it became, I think, like right when it became legal in California. He's based out of that. And he went through the whole cannabinoid system. So I go to conferences like that teach me all about what I'm looking to look for and looking to get into.
So it sounds like, I mean, the information is out there, but you gotta do your due diligence. You gotta be proactive.
You gotta dig.
Yeah.
But it's just kind of like the vaccine where we're going through. There's more information out there. They're only putting out the information they want to put out at this moment. You know, there's further things that are put out, but you have to go search for it if you want to find certain things. Mm-hmm. And so that's the whole thing. And you just always, even in your search, you have to be careful. And I'm careful of, okay, is this a study? Who basically paid for this study? Who's doing the study? How big is that? That's if I do studies, because there are a lot of studies out there about marijuana. There's a lot of studies out there about herbals. And I also even learned herbals in pharmacy school. So like we had a whole year of herbals. We had a whole year of herbals to make sure to know this herbal is going to interact with this med. We have to know like every aspect of medicine. And they don't teach you they don't be like, know the name of this med. This is the med brand generic. They teach you that, but like your basic thing is know the system. If you know the body system, then you'll know how this reacts. Oh, it acts like this drug. So like if a new drug comes out, most of the time it's kind of like another drug. It's just a little bit different. So you have to know how it's different and how it'll interact and react with that system. And we knew those with herbals. What drugs interact with what? Where do they react? Where do they do that? So those are things that we had to like take into account. Wow.
Sounds like you learned a lot in school, man. I mean, and you retained a lot. Like that's pretty impressive. You're a sharp woman, I'll tell you that.
Oh, thank you.
You know your stuff. Yeah. So I mean, tell us about PurpleRX. So what's the objective? Like what, why you told us about what led you there, but tell us what it's about, what the channel's about.
Like I said, it's really about empowering people with information, and not just information to say I'm all right, but information for you to look at your body differently. Look at, okay, this could be an option for me. Maybe this is something I can try. Maybe I need to go speak to a doctor. Maybe I need to learn how to find a doctor. I have a one in there to show you how to find the doctor that could be right for you, because that relationship is important in order for you to start off and be able to speak freely. It's like any other relationship. You want to be able to speak freely with your doctor. If you have things like when people talk about studies, what does it look like when there is first phase, second phase, third phase? Did you know that we're a part of the fourth phase trial of a drug? So a drug is never when the trial is over, it's never really over. The trial is never really over. You're a part of the fourth phase. They've just done it in so many people and seen so many results. The FDA is like, okay, you can put it out in the population. That's why they can recall drugs and still do that, because that's a part of the whole cycle. Mm-hmm. And I just want people to understand this actual community, because the medical healthcare can be daunting. I don't want people to understand that. Don't just go into trends, because there's trends in healthcare. I'm like, there's ashwagandha, there's this, like, but do you really need ashwagandha? Is that for you? Don't just jump on the bandwagon because they're saying this is something new and this has nutrients. Do you know if you're missing those nutrients? Because sometimes if you feed yourself too much, you feed your body too much nutrients, your body has a natural negative feedback loop to be like, okay, I don't have to do the work. Something outside of me is doing the work. So those are things I want people to understand how it feels, what doesn't feel like, things like that. And even marijuana, the rules of marijuana, things of what the benefits are, how to look at it. And I kind of speak in a basic term right now. As I like progress on and more people, I'll probably get further and deeper into it, but I try to keep it pretty simple, simplistic, just to have you think and open up and to see where I'm coming from and what you can see through here. And I'm not looking to down anybody like Western medicine's bad or this. I'm looking for people to just actually see those facts and take it into, as I open my apothecary, because I'm looking to start, an online apothecary selling marijuana and CBD and psychedelics, and as well as other herbals, because people want it out there. People, even before this whole marijuana thing, marijuana has just opened the door even more for people to look at herbals, and people really want it out there. So why am I going to hide or act like people don't want it? And if I have the knowledge, why not give it and make sure these people are understanding what they're navigating through, and not just hopping on a bandwagon, hopping on a trend and say, this may work better for you. Okay, do you know how your body interacts? Do you know how to start this out? Do you know what you're dealing with? And that's what I really want people to see, understand, and know. Because it's so much information out there. It's like, so like I'm looking to start where in my apothecary, it might be online, but if you want to access somebody or talk to me, I'm here to talk and help you, guide you through it and help you see, okay, what is going on with you? What do you have? What do you, what ailments, what's ailing you? Is it just recreational? Okay, let's look at this. What kind of feeling do you want? Not just a feeling, but what kind of healing do you want? And even make my own strand for those people that may not want as much dryness, maybe be able to take out the mouth dryness or reduce it, or focus on a certain area where it's high in pain and, low in THC or something like that. Even working raw. I just wanted to have access to and this was just a open door for me. I was like, I got to do this.
Yeah.
I got to do this.
I totally respect your passion and your commitment to critical thinking when it comes to that, because just like anything, even outside of healthcare, there's so many trends and things that you, like you said, you could jump on the bandwagon without doing due diligence and thinking for yourself to see, is this right for me? Right. And that's so important. And so I think it's great work that you're doing that. And I would imagine there's just more to come, right? Like to your point, people want this, they want an alternative. It's clear, right? Public support for legalization of cannabis has never been as high as it is. I think it's at like 92% right now. And then you're seeing other states that are legalizing psychedelics for mental illness, for PTSD, for trauma. So you can see that there's an appetite within the public sector, and it's so important that people like you are stepping up and utilizing your background, which is in pharmaceuticals and in medicine, but applying that to this new type of thinking, because, it's needed. People want something different.
And I don't want people to just go in and be like, well, my friend gave me this, because there's a lot of people that are just ready to jump in this industry because they see money. And don't get me wrong, I see money, but I see like, how can I'm more of a person that's like integrity. How can I guide people through this? Because there's going to be so many people out there telling them, this is best for you, this is that and this. And I really want people to understand and know their body. And there was even there was a panel the other day, and this girl with hip tours was like, yeah, people can take a cannabinoid test and see what their cannabinoid system is like and how it would react to what and what it would react to. I want people to, I want to conjunct with doctors and people that know, so that people can get a more curated and understanding way of finding what's best for them.
Absolutely. And actually, it's funny that you brought that DNA test up. I don't know if you were talking to Leah Laxtons from Hemp Tours or Cynthia, but
probably Cynthia. Leah was there, but it was Cynthia. She was recording. Leah was on the panel.
So shout out to Leah and Cynthia. But she's absolutely right. On my website, cannabinoid-connect.com, I have a partnership with EndoCanna Health, and they have an endo DNA collection kit where they basically map your endocannabinoid system and then match that summary to a specific cannabinoid ratio and terpene profile from various strands. So if you go on my website, the promo code is Connect15, but you can click on that picture and it'll take you to the website. But to your point, yeah, like that's actually a good point that I wanted to raise. And that is like, aren't you so surprised that right now within our healthcare system that we can't go to the doctor and do like you would, like go through a process like you would, like if you were taking your car to the auto shop, right? Where they hook it up to a computer and they run diagnostic tests and they tell you, okay, you're this, you're that. I know you get that with blood work and other things, but to your point of like understanding how your specific body chemistry reacts to a certain medication or whatever it is, right? And I know that in Thailand, like there, like people go on medical retreats, medical vacations where they leave the US and they get treated in Thailand. And from a show that I watched years ago, I know that that's part of their practice is like they walk you through a whole body screening first and foremost to check every part of you and to see what's working, what's not, and what you should be looking out for. I mean, is that something that surprises you that's not incorporated here in the US healthcare system?
It does, but it kind of doesn't. So a friend of mine who really all he sees is alternative medicine doctors, and it's actually my friend of my fiance's, and he goes and he'll get a body scan, and that person will scan him up and down and say what's going really wrong, or like he might have to go through two machines. So there are some out there. I think the thing is we rely so much on a government entity to tell us what we need to do. So if it's not like, so like this, if you do chemotherapy and you're an oncologist, you cannot say that natural medicine or anything natural or herbal is a cure. The only things that can be called a cure in cancer treatment is radiation or chemotherapy. That is an FDA rule. And that is
wild.
because
That's wild.
and that is because you got to remember these big corporations and big pharma and these big Merck companies, because a lot of the big pharma companies sometimes not only do pharmaceuticals, they do machinery, they do other things, and they give so much money to the government. So think about this opioid crisis. Opioid crisis was we were in Afghanistan, we weren't in Afghanistan for anything really substantial. You know what it was for? A lot of pharmaceutical companies, there was like two things it was for. I can't remember the other one.
The poppy fields.
There you go. Our soldiers were protecting opioid poppy fields in Afghanistan.
That's true. Yeah.
And so you wonder why we have an epidemic. Y'all are a part of this, paying for this war, and you part of the epidemic because you wanted to tell dentists that go ahead and make sure they start off with Percocet or oxycodone. Like, why would somebody who has had an extraction need that? I didn't even do that. I had basic morphine when I had my transplant, and they were like, you can press the button every 6 minutes. And after the first day, I was like, I'm done. Because I was like, I don't want to keep pressing it. And then I got so constipated, I was like, I don't want none of it. So the thing is, it's all a capitalism money cog. And that's where it gets mucked up. And we need to really start changing that as a people and asking for something different. Because, one of the top five, some of the top five companies in Forbes are insurance companies. And you got to remember, insurance and pharmacy, they all work together. So it can be, it's kind of a scary thing. That's why it's like, with all this money that's going into it, you would think we should have free healthcare.
Right. I mean, it is a basic human right, I would imagine, right? In any civilized country, any first world country. No, I totally agree with that. And just to add on, which is kind of a funny story, I think I might have mentioned this on another episode, but I recently took we have 3 dogs, my wife and I took my the smallest little dog, Lola, 8 pounds, to the vet because she had a kennel cough. She was coughing up all day. So we were a little worried about her. Took her in, and they prescribed her antibiotics and hydrocodone.
What?
Yeah, a dog, an 8-pound dog. And I could tell that they didn't really, like, maybe we were overly
they don't know.
Yeah, and maybe we were overly concerned, like we went in and maybe we should just kind of waited it out. But like I could tell the doctor, the vet, didn't really know what the issue was. I mean, he determined that it could be kennel cough, but when they wrote the hydrocodone, I was like, I don't think she needs hydrocodone. I think she's good, and we haven't given it to her at all, and it was kind of a waste, but that was interesting to me for sure. Yeah.
Well, I am going to say this. They do that because pain in some people's pain tolerance is different. Pain is a form of stress to the body. So it can be a kind of a hindrance in healing. So that was a thought process and partly doing, let me get an opioid, let me do this, let me do that. But the thing about it is sometimes those things are they're giving more intense pills when they really should maybe even give something small. And there's cannabis for dogs, there's hemp for dogs.
Right.
You might
Yeah.
want to check out, because there was, when in the Leafly thing, there was they were like, our cannabis for dogs is hot in California. I was like, I could see, I would give my dog a little cannabis and be like, relax over there. Or what, or, oh, you're in pain, here, a little bit of this.
Thunderstorms help with CBD for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so that was the thing. And I was like, that they've gone a little too far with it. They pushed it a little too far, but I get there because they have found that the stress of somebody's body is a part of is can hinder recovery. If somebody's in really bad pain, it can hinder recovery. But you can also get so hooked on those things very easily.
Yeah.
You could also get hooked on hydrocodone. Any of those, you could just be like, I just need to pop one. It makes me feel I can just need to pop one. And so, but the thing about it is some of it is chemical dependence and some of it is a mental thing.
Right. Yeah. See, we don't want to get little Lola chemically dependent, fiending for for her hydros.
Well, where's my codone?
Right. Keep pushing that button,
Okay.
Renata, as we wrap up, I'm interested to hear your thoughts. So pull out your crystal ball. You've been in the healthcare system. You're now, focused on PurpleRX, the more holistic natural remedy side of the house. So what's your predictions for the future? Like, does the healthcare system eventually adopt more holistic herbal remedies like cannabis and psychedelics and others? If so, how long do you think that's going to take? Like, what does that all look like? How does it play out?
Well, I think it has opened the door already. So the door was opened when cannabis really came about, especially in California, for a medicinal use. So that cannabis not only opened the door to that, it opened the door to other herbals. And it was just for me, but I had seen it had opened the door to other herbals and more other people being interested in herbals and more people talking about their food and how they receive their food. And if they're getting, they've always talked about food and nutrition, especially in the Black community, but if you don't give people access or you have too much money for it, how is it going to be available to me?
Right.
So those things I see them changing, and I see a lot of people in my generation wanting to change that and see it from a different thing. Like I said, I was taught herbals, but they taught this, I think he was Nigerian. He came in and he taught us herbals because he knew those are going to be important. People are no matter what going to be on those. So cannabis really opened up the door to say, maybe this is something we need to look at, because alternative has been around. So like the lady I used to work for in hospice and long-term care, her sister is actually the pharmacist. She went to pharmacy school and now she's like an alternative medicine doctor after going through the experience and seeing what the overuse and overprescribing of meds. And like I said, we're going to have to go into that. She became like an acupuncturist and does other things like other alternative meds. Mm-hmm. So we're going to have to go to that. Like I said, you're seeing viral infections. We're going to have to go to some kind of natural antifungal like tea tree oil, or make a combination of coconut oil and putting on the area in some ways, and starting out with that, starting from the bottom again, because we are just in the overuse of drugs and it may not be as effective as we think they are.
Right.
And you can make stronger drugs, but it's going to take some time. Mm-hmm. And actually seeing combinations of where alternative and alternative medicine in combination with medicine can be beneficial for that person, and even maybe take that person off that medication.
Yeah, I mean, that should be the ultimate goal, right? I mean, not this management of continue taking, but the end goal being, I want to eventually be off these meds.
And the thing is, it's going to be a hard fight. It's going to be a hard fight because of pharmaceutical companies and those companies that want the money. They want money. They are a capitalistic cog and they just want that money, because you got to think about it. How do they put out drugs? They don't put out a drug that'll be beneficial for everybody. They just put out the drugs that make them money and that are beneficial for them. Mm-hmm. And so hopefully we're getting more and more people. I see it changing because people are getting more and more tired of this. Yeah. People are getting more and more tired of the way our healthcare system is. people are seeing other countries where their healthcare system has provided more for them than ours has, and we pay so much in healthcare. People are wanting to change it, and it starts with people who we change in our senators and who we change in our like Senate and local elections. We have a lot of older senators, and they're going to go with whatever because they're making money on this big game. And a lot of the companies that are coming up are really tech companies. But if there are some ethical pharmaceutical companies, but you have to really watch out, because some people want to change that. They don't. You can see in this vaccine thing, people are wanting. There's a lot of people that used to be a certain way that weren't anti-vaxxers, that have taken vaccines and are now questioning, how are we doing this, and are we doing this in the proper way, and what is really going on, so I think it's going to change. It's just, there's got to be a lot of towers to fall. There's got to be a lot of things to go down, things to go wrong, things to blow up in our face in order for us to say, we need to add this in more effectively. And it's happening. So I wouldn't be surprised if next 5 or 10 years, if things really start changing in the healthcare. In marijuana, they're fighting it hard, especially because Big Pharma wants to be able to, they're prepping themselves of how they can get in. How can I get in? Right. How can I be up front? How can I keep my name top? Right. And they don't want to have to, because there's billions of dollars already in the cannabis industry. If you come in, it could be trillions. And they want to see, they're trying to play that game. And you got to remember, if you change everything at FDA, if you make an FDA approval on baseline, they'll come in quick, but also they'll have to get all these people out of prison. They'll have to reform. There's a lot of reform going on in our society, even like I said, in healthcare as well as judicial. A lot of things are having to change, and we have to really look at what our system is and how we change it. But we're going to have a lot of hard things happen to us even more for us to change it. It's going to be rough, but it's going to change. In the next five years, you'll see a total different, really a different start, and you'll see that things are really changing.
Yeah, I think that's a very sound outlook. I agree with you completely. This is going to be, it's going to be rough. It's not going to get any easier until it gets better. Right. And this is right. Kind of, we're going to have to roll up our sleeves, have experts like yourself who have been in the medical profession, still are in the medical profession, but are, kind of shifting in thinking more about the holistic, more natural, therapies and remedies. And, it's all about who we elect also. You're totally right on that. So being more in tune with local elections that are coming up in November, what's happening at the federal level, and continuing to have these conversations to educate, right? And just, it's really going to be up to the younger generation to do that and to move it forward. And I do have faith. We're smart, millennials, Gen Z. I mean, we get stuff done, so
they're kind of scared of us. They're scared of us. Some of them are scary. Some of us can be scary because I think that because we've taken over because of our no for technology.
Yep.
So it's going to be a little scary, but we're going to get through this for some people. Our parents are going to be, we're scaring our parents a little bit, and that's cool. They need to be scared because some things don't need to be the same. We don't need the same people in office and Senate. Like all these people are like our grandparents' age. No offense to our grandparents, but they're kind of,
well, when you're trying to legislate and implement policy on things you don't understand, that's where it gets worrisome as a citizen. You should at least know what we're talking about, whether it's technology or cannabis or psychedelic, whatever it is, right? I mean, at least have an open mind to it and learn about it before making an informed decision.
I think they know. Is it a part of their agenda?
Right.
Is it a part of their agenda? The people the people that are paying for their campaign, are they helping me out? Because you're in a money country. So if it turns around to be, sometimes it like who's paying me and who can I say yes or no to? Okay, they want this, so this is, it ends up getting to be that, and I've seen that.
Yeah, it's that super PAC money, that lobbying money. I get it. And to your point about the pharmaceutical industry, I had Brady Cobb on, and he said the same thing. If you don't think that the pharmaceutical industry is already gearing up for this. They're playing both sides right now. They're lobbying against cannabis legalization, and then they're already doing research and development. And they have the products on their shelf ready to go once that legislation does pass. So
because they've already done marijuana. So there's one that's dronabinol. It's like weak. It's like 5 milligrams and 10 milligrams that they give to cancer patients because that's when they started it. But it's dronabinol, Marinol. That was one drug they already had. Now they're probably working on other ones.
Right.
But in pill form to be like, this is easy and efficient, marijuana.
And that's the only that's what's funny. Going back to your point about the money and how everything's tied, like that's the only FDA approved cannabis drug, right?
That, and I think there's another one. It's like starts with the E. I can't remember.
Epidiolex, but that's the synthetic one.
Yeah, but even dronabinol and Marinol, they're synthetic.
Oh,
but
they're
people
synthetic
are not
also?
going to want. Yeah, they're pretty much lab made, but people aren't going to want. No. After a while, if you've had the real thing, and most of our parents, even the grandparents, have had the real thing. And there's a whole lot. What people have to understand is when things grow in the ground, it's not just the product that you get. You get the minerals and the nutrients that come from the actual soil. The things they take that and extract whatever's in the soil. Right. And if they're growing it right and in the right place and with the right love, you can get some great things out of it. So it's not just the marijuana that goes with it. It's the nutrients that you get from that natural herb.
100%, girl. You know your stuff, man. I've really enjoyed learning from you today, really, and just getting more of the science background around, medications that are out there, how they interact with certain body, chemistry types, and the future of potential when it comes to all the opportunities around holistic medicines. Renata, you're awesome. I totally encourage everybody listening to this podcast to check out her podcast, PurpleRX. Renata, where can people find your social media if they want to tune in and learn more?
So I have an Instagram, PurpleRX podcast. I was originally starting a podcast, but I wasn't good at talking to myself in the wall. So it's PurpleRX podcast on Instagram. And then on my YouTube, it's PurpleRX. You should be able to find me easily. So bear with me on my Instagram. I'm not the best. I'm working to be better. But as I go along, I do have plenty of information. I've got 35 videos right now on YouTube. So you should have a pretty good amount of content. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, we all start somewhere. Look at my first couple of episodes on this podcast and you'll definitely see that you get better as you go. So
yeah, yes. I appreciate you having me on. This was a really good talk, even though I probably talked the most, but I had a really great talk with you guys that before. So I was like, oh, I'm loving the vibe. I'm loving everything. So
of course. And that's what it's all about. We're here to hear from you, not me. I'm just kind of the guy that facilitates it. So thanks again for your insights. Truly enjoyed talking with you. As things progress and you start to, build out the business more and have guests on, let's have you back on just to talk about your experience and what you've learned.
Most definitely. And I'll probably have you on mine. I do need to have you on mine.
I would love to.
You'll be fine because you have interacted with so many people. So you're good.
I'll just talk about all the things that I've learned from all the experts I've talked to. Cause I'm not claiming to be the expert. I'm listening. So
yeah, I'm not either. I'm still learning. In this industry. There's still so much to learn.
That's right.
And we will all learn.
We're students of the plant. That's right.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, hey, Renata, thank you so much again. And thank you all for listening. Bye.
Bye, guys.